Once upon a time, America dominated commercial shipbuilding, but no more. Today, China, Japan, and South Korea reign supreme. Senators Todd Young and Mark Kelly are on a mission to reinvigorate an industry that sank in the United States generations ago and never recovered.
This is a national security bill.
The stakes are high. So the senators introduced the Ships for America Act, which seeks to not just galvanize commercial shipbuilding, but ensure the United States has the highly trained professionals needed to build and operate these vessels.
You will not have a cost-effective and on-time naval shipbuilding enterprise if you do not have a strong commercial shipbuilding enterprise.
So can these senators get their bills signed into law and bring American shipbuilding back to its former glory in just a few years?
We can't fail.
American shipyards, the envy of the world. Oh wait, sorry, this is video from China, and they are crushing the United States. The Chinese build 1,700 ships per year. China, along with Japan and South Korea, dominate the industry, with 90% of all new ocean-going vessels. I need one hand to count how many ocean-going vessels the United States builds annually. 5. That's right, 5. How did we get to this depleted state?
Well, we took our eye off the ball. Other countries had prioritized shipbuilding for domestic political reasons, but more importantly, for national security reasons. They rightly understood that shipbuilding has national security spillover implications, and it's really important for a country to have shipbuilding capacity.
Here's a timeline of America's shipbuilding decline. America truly was the envy of the world after World War II. The United States had more than 4,400 flagships of all types and sizes capable of carrying 57% of U.S. trade. The government sold many of those surplus vessels to shipping companies at great prices. That, combined with the United States' higher labor costs, dried up demand for new American ships and the yards closed. By the 1970s, the United States was only building 15 to 25 new commercial ships per year. That dropped to 5 by the 80s, and it's where we remain today. There are only 6 shipyards in the United States building large commercial vessels. That includes Philly Shipyard, owned by Hanwha. The South Korea-based company supports the Ships for America Act and its stated goal of unlocking investment to build new shipyards and revive some of the 60 shipyards that have fallen out of service. What's it take to get a new shipyard up and running or bring one back into commission?
It's a lot, but for frame of reference, in World War II, and obviously that's a challenging time, we stood up 6 emergency shipyards in 6 months. So we can do it. It's a doable feat. Is shipbuilding more complicated than it was then? Yes. Is our ships more complicated? Yes. But if you have the funding available, it's possible. But that is where you run into challenges. In the United States, a private shipyard has not been stood up without significant government assistance since the 19th century. So if we are standing up new shipyards in the United States, it is going to have to involve U.S. government support.
Due to low demand, Philly Shipyard currently builds 1.2 ships per year. In an industry with tight margins, scaling up can have compounding effects.
I'll make it simple math. If at Philadelphia you build 1.2 ships a year, any CapEx investment you make, your labor costs, they're spread off 1.2 ships a year. In Korea, we build anywhere from 35 to 50 ships a year. Now my CapEx investment is amortized out across those number of ships, the profit. My labor costs, which are not linear, are now spread out over 40 ships instead of 1.2. And it's not like 40 ships takes 40 times the labor of one ship. You're benefiting significantly.
Here's how the Ships for America Act would help with that. It would create a maritime security trust fund, very similar to the highway and aviation trust funds. That money would be used to help shipyards and shipbuilding. It would create a program to establish a fleet of 250 U.S. flagged vessels in international commerce, establish tax and import duty incentives for shipping goods into the U.S. on American ships. It would also create incentives for Americans to make a career as a mariner, like public service loan forgiveness. The 310-page bill is a comprehensive overhaul of the American maritime industry. All right, so we're out here in the Chesapeake Bay where there's about a half a dozen ships waiting their turn to get into the port of Baltimore. So this is probably a good time to explain what exactly is an ocean-going vessel. Well, to put it simply, it's a large ship that's capable of crossing the open ocean. They include container ships, bulk carriers, general cargo ships, passenger ships, oil tankers, and roll-on, roll-off vehicle carriers like the Lake Victoria.
The objective is to not only train a bunch of people, but to build 250 ocean-going vessels in the next 10 years, which is pretty ambitious.
In the very beginning of this video, Senator Young called this a national security bill. Here's a bit more context.
It's also a bill about economic security and economic opportunity, and making sure that we're independent of other countries for, essential services like shipping. But more than anything else, this is a national security bill.
So why do commercial ocean-going vessels matter to national security, specifically the military? A couple reasons. For starters, if the United States ever went to war, there would be what's called a sea lift. That's when troops, weapons, vehicles, and supplies are sent to the war zone on a combination of military and commercial vessels. It's an essential part of war logistics because sea lifts can carry substantially heavier payloads than airlifts. In fact, cargo ships could transport 90% of the military equipment needed overseas.
Right now, we don't have that capacity. You can imagine a situation that a military conflict that lasts for more than a few months. If that were to happen, we would not have the capacity under so many scenarios to repair the vessels that need to be repaired and to build new vessels. That ought to be alarming to every American.
Another reason, cost and efficiency.
Let's say I make a widget. I'm a member of the supply chain. Goes into a naval ship. If that widget only goes into a naval ship, the amount of premium the U.S. government has to pay to keep me in business to exclusively supply that widget for the naval ship is much higher than if my widget goes into the naval ship and goes into these three classes of commercial ship, and I have other lines of business that allow me then to price my product appropriately to the Navy because they're not the sole reason I exist. Anytime the government is the sole reason a supply chain member or even a prime, such as the shipbuilder themselves, exists, the U.S. government pays a premium.
All right, so the sun is setting and it's time to head back to dock, so we'll leave you with this. If this bill were signed into law tomorrow, it would take years for United States shipbuilding to get to where these senators want it to be, and it would also take an investment from the government of hundreds of millions of dollars. So this is going to be a long-term national commitment. I'm Ray Bogan for Straight Arrow News. For more unbiased reporting straight from the Chesapeake Bay, download the SAN app.